Okay, we're backer than Backstreet, but if only the same was true for some of our players because a lot of our key ones are out injured and won't be back for today's episode. So we've brought you back for a cheeky little double-header today, and things are going okay in Croatia. We were in the relegation play-out spot when we took over at Lokomotiva, but a win in our first game in charge in our last episode lifted us up the table, and since then we've picked up some more wins. Not exclusively wins, and it's meant that we've risen as high as 4th, but it's very, very tight. The gap between us and 9th place Rijeka is only 5 points, so we are still in a relegation battle as much as we are in the hunt for European places. That's how close a league it is, and it tends to concertina when you've only got 10 teams in the league, so we've got to keep up the wins today. We should be able to do that during our first game as we're taking on bottom of the table Rudesh, but in our second game, we've come back for a biggie. We're going to be taking on Hajduk Split, who could be the team that pushes out of Croatia at the end of this season, not because if we lose to them, we're going to get sacked, but because they are on a bit of a charge of their own in European competition. They currently lie second in the league phase of the Conference League, level on points with Brøndby. I think they've still got a game or two possibly still to play. There's some huge clubs in there. The likes of Lyon and Bayer Leverkusen are below them. So if they were to go all the way and reach a final in the Conference League, then even if we have started to build a club at Lokomotiva, we're going to have to resign and apply for jobs elsewhere, which would be a small disaster. Hopefully, it won't come to that. Here is our form since we saw you last time when we were winning 3-2 against Gorica. Well, we've beaten Slaven Belupo, we've beaten Istra, we've drawn with Varestin and with Osijek in our last game. And Osijek are another club who are in contention to try and qualify for the Europa League knockout stages. Our only defeat was probably to be expected, and it was a humbling one, in honesty. We lost 1-0 to Dinamo, but we were barely in this game. We registered 1 shot on target during the entire match, and by and large, our team played disastrously, and we've been hampered a little bit by injuries, which means that we've had to move some players around. We've had to find new roles to try and tweak the tactic because we've lost some key men, and today we're going to have to shuffle the pack once more because we've got more players out injured. So one of the most important omissions is Ivan Milicevic, who was going to be our rampaging, overlapping left wing back. Well, that lasted for just 2 games, I'm afraid, before he was out for 4 months with a hip injury. He's potentially going to be out for another 3, so he's going to miss the remainder of this season. And at 29 years old, might have a bit of an impact on his physicals, which means he's not quite the same player when he returns. We didn't have another left back that could replicate the role that he was going to play. So instead, we've turned to youth in the form of Krešimir Novoselic, who is a 6'6" centre-back, only 18 years old, but can fill in at left back. And that is what we've asked them to do. But they are not galloping up and down the flanks, my friends. We are playing them as an inverted fullback, which, given our lack of attacking width down the left, has meant a little bit of a reshuffle, and it gives us less impetus than I think we had when Milicevic was in the side, but we're having to turn to youth elsewhere. Unfortunately, our Icelandic midfielder, Brynjolfur Wilhelmsson, has also picked up an injury. They're going to be out for a month. They are one of the very important cogs in our midfield, so in their place, we're going to be giving game time to a very promising 16-year-old Vyacheslav Seva, a player we showed you during the last episode. They're training well, they've got some upward arrows. We've mainly been rotating them into the side as an attacking midfielder or a number 10. Instead, today, they're going to play in central midfield. And that's not the only injury problem that we've got. Christian Kierkegaard is now out just for a couple of weeks. But that means that we don't have any cover over on the right flank. So instead, we're bringing in Tuk to play as our right-sided midfielder, a role that they've played for the last couple of games and have actually put in some incredibly good performances. So it might be that playing over on the right wing might be a better fit for them. But it does mean that we're having to play an inverted winger rather than a traditional hit the byline and cross it in kind of winger. We were playing a cross it in kind of winger because we'd started playing a target forward up front in the form of Stanley Tucci, but Even Tucci has got a tight calf. He's going to be out for another day. We're going to try and risk them for at least 45 minutes of today's match. But if we aggravate that injury, then that could be another linchpin of the side that we have missing. Let's do a little report on our transfers and how successful they have been. Brace yourselves. They've been really, really poor. We bought in Krzysztof Daniek. He's got 2 assists and a goal, but hasn't registered above a 7 during the last 4 games, and is averaging just 6.84. We briefly showed you Tiny Took. He is at least averaging a 7. He's got 3 assists and a goal. Has not been the marksman that we hoped he would be when we signed him for over £1 million. That's not the worst of it, my friends. No. Nech Ameyer has been positively awful, averaging a 6.62, no goals, and couples that with, that's right, no assists, and some pretty wretched performances. What a terrible, terrible signing I made, probably because I'm trying to shoehorn him into a role that I think would work for the team. He doesn't have the ability to play whatsoever. And the other signing that we bought in, Christian Kierkegaard, 2 appearances off the bench, 1 start. Absolutely zip in terms of goal contributions. Perhaps the only shining light has been Big Willie Camboala, who has got an assist and is averaging a 7.2 across the 7 appearances that they've made, and is even showing some improvement in training. So well done, Big Willie. You are the only shining light amongst the 5 bits of transfer business that I made, and it really is the players that were already at the club that have been saving us in some of our games, such as Vladan Bubania, who's poked in 3 goals since I took over, and those are his only goals of the season. Has also got 1 assist in the games that we've played and has averaged above a 7 in 4 of the last 5 outings. We're going to see how they get on today. Hopefully, it should be a win against Rudesh, and then we'll see what kind of squad we've got available to us for that even tougher game against Hajduk Split afterwards. So the game against Dinamo Zagreb may be the only defeat that we've suffered, but we've not really played well. We've won some games, and a lot of them we've had to come from behind. Not sure the tactic is quite suiting the players yet. I have this romantic notion of developing a new tactic every time we move to a new club in the quest. I've already done a 4-4-2. I've done a 4-2-3-1. I've done a 4-3-3 with a DM. So I thought, well, for Lokomotiva, let's try something new and different. However, I'm not sure whether we've got enough about us to play that tactic. We're in our red away kits today, and we've gone an early goal down to the side who are bottom of the table. Neftal throws it into the box. Bubania almost gave away a penalty. Nemanja Matic strides into the box and strikes it past our goalkeeper. And as I was waxing, I'm not sure a 4-4-1-1 is the tactic to take us to the end of the season, but it's been picking up some results. But I've had to tweak it on the fly during each game, changing the roles, trying to find something that suits the players. We might need to do that again today. Bubania picks up the ball. He has a strike right from the edge of the box. It whistles past a post. It's our first action of the game. We are on the 40-minute mark, and we have been blunt so far. This is a team that are right at the foot of the table, and we are gifting them 3 points right now due to our own inept performance. So with Stanley Tucci carrying that calf strain, we've bought him off at half-time. We've moved Ameyer over onto the right wing. A 6.7 is not his worst performance in a Lokomotiva shirt. Let's see if it gets even better out over on the right wing. It means that Tiny Took is going to go up front, but not to be a target forward. Instead, they're going to be an advanced forward. We gave them a bit of a chastening during half-time. We're also going to throw it up to a positive mentality to see if we can find a goal in this second half. They've got the ball in their own half as they try to cross the halfway line. They send it through to Rasander. We are 2-0 down after just 52 minutes. And I thought, as we were coming back for a very tough game against Hajduk Split, I'd come back for the game before that against bottom of the table, and at least I could show you one good performance during this episode. How wrong I was, my friends. This has been abysmal, and it does make us even more concerned about how we might perform against Hajduk in the next game. We've got Daniek, who is very rapidly running out of energy. And I think we're going to have to make a couple more substitutions for this second half. We're going to bring Hoff on. We're going to put the young 16-year-old on as the shadow striker. This really has been a very limp performance. Let's change their role to something they prefer. Let's ask them to be an attacking midfielder instead and see whether just by some miracle he might help spur us into life in the remainder of the game. The 18-year-old 6'6" left back, the Croatian Dan Burn, if you will, rises from an indirect free kick but heads it about 5 yards high and even more yards wide as we now approach the 80th minute of the game, and absolutely nothing is happening for us. In fact, we are being outplayed. Nofoslek is now struggling for energy. We're going to bring on Tin Kuprashek instead. You can see how he is more of an attacking fullback, but nowhere near the standard of the Bosnian that is out injured for 4 months. At least that means that they might be able to gallop forward from wing back a little. That could be a hope that is much in vain. We've also got Amaya struggling as well. We're going to bring on Bogijevic as the right wing replacement. That's our substitutes made. We've not had a single shot on target anywhere in this game. We're going to throw out a shout. Let's try and encourage them, even though they're 2-0 down. There's no response from the midfield. The attackers and the defenders liked the shout, but it didn't help us have a shot or score a goal. And now we've got an even tougher game ahead. But before we get to that Hajduk game, our latest batch of youngsters have arrived. I say our latest batch. This is going to be our first since we took over. An excellent intake, apparently, and we should be excited by goalkeeper Jenisai Kerniak, who is potentially a 5-star potential player. They've got a terrible personality, low determination. I guess otherwise they've got a little bit about them. 6'2". Not the worst. Agility of 10's a little low. I would have liked the communication and the command of area to be higher, as I find they can be quite stubborn ones to shift with a goalkeeper, but not a disaster at 15 years old. We've also got Silvio Dushak, unsporting this time. At least they've got some determination about them. A ball-winning midfielder at the base of the midfield. It's okay. I'm not sure it's spectacular. We've got Blas Brodic, unambitious and unappealing, I would say, Blas. We've also got Bosko Benjic, who is rocking a Fellaini-esque haircut. Great personality. 5'6" right winger who is quick and, well, who is quick, I would say. We've also got the Swiss Natalie Portman, unambitious, fabulous. We've got Carlo Igor Stiglic, low determination, great. Another one to add into the mix of disappointing youth intake players. We've got Goran Bosniak, who is all right, Goran. All right, but there's not a lot in this youth intake that I would get excited about. The worst of them is Dorian Darakovic. I mean, he really is the worst of them. So not a lot in the youth intake that we might fast track into the first team. It looks like they've had better intakes in the years before we took over, because a lot of the squad have come through their own youth intakes. After that defeat to bottom of the table in the last game, sometimes in Football Manager, and I am very quick to pull the trigger on this, you have to realise that maybe the tactic that you're trying to push on the team isn't working as well as you would hope. So for today's game, I'm thinking of changing it up a little. So I've changed the shape of the lineup slightly, and I've tweaked a lot of people's roles. I've moved Amaya over onto the right side to be a conventional winger getting crosses into the box. It means I've brought Touk over onto the left side. They could just about play as a flat 4-man midfield, but they are more comfortable further forward. They're more comfortable on the other side of the pitch, in honesty. So I'm going to play them slightly more advanced and ask them to join Tucci in attack. The main reason why I've been playing a shadow striker is because Krzysztof Daniek arrived at the club and would only join on the proviso that they would play as a shadow striker. and I've been trying not to upset them. I also promised him that I'd be strengthening the defence, and he's still waiting for that to happen, despite the fact that I did bring in Big Willie at the same time, and I thought that would be enough in order to placate him, but apparently not. So seeing as he's probably going to throw his toys out the pram anyway, I'm actually going to play him in the role that I would prefer him to be. So we're going to ask him to be an attacking midfielder rather than a shadow striker with a support, so they form more of a three-man midfield, and it means that the emphasis on supporting Tuchki and perhaps even running past them is going to fall to Chuk over on the left wing. It means that we're going to have a two-man central midfield. We're going to bring in Agon Aletsi, a Macedonian, who's going to be a ball-winning midfielder for us, and we're going to ask Babanya to just sit in the defensive pockets of the midfield and perhaps break up play, cover the defence a little more. We're also going to have the 6'6" youngster making a back three as we attack. So all of our balls in are probably going to come from the right. It still feels a little clumsy. I think I really need to get to the end of the season and have a good clear out and then decide exactly how I want to play. I did toy with the idea of going with a back five when I first took over at Lokomotiva. Having failed to make that work when I first took over at Riga, I scared off it a little. Maybe we might revisit that during pre-season, but we'll see whether the tweaks to the roles and just moving one of that flat four further forward to support the striker has any joy against a very strong Hajduk split team today. I'm going to ask the players to go out there and show that they've got what it takes. Novo Selic is nervous, which is not great for an 18-year-old with very little experience. I'm going to tell him that I think he can make the difference. Spoiler, I'm not sure an 18-year-old left-back who's 6'6" can make that much of a difference. There's our form. 2 defeats, 2 draws, and a win in the last 5. It really is very tight in this table. The team that were in the relegation zones just 3 weeks ago are now above us and 4th in the league. It shows how quickly it can move, and although we've whizzed up the table, a couple of defeats and we're going to whiz back down it, and we're back in that relegation dogfight. So we need to pick up some points pretty soon given the form that we are in. We've made a more pleasing start to this game than we did in the last. Hajduk have not had an effort yet. We've had 3 shots and we are coming forward now, and Daniek feeds the ball to our right back. Vrankovic gallops forward. A little bit of interchange with the right winger and Bubanya before we give the ball away, and now we're having to chase it back. We've won it. Daniek, playing as that attacking midfielder on support, comes back, helps out the midfield, and now we slow down the play. This is a very long highlight, so it leads me to believe this could be a goal at the end of it, and it's going to be for us, surely. Here comes Vrankovic. He sends it forward. Amaya, who has done nothing since he has arrived at the club, has sent a ball into the box that cannons off a defender's heel. It's headed home by Daniek. The referee is either just having a staring contest with their goalkeeper, or he's checking what VAR have to say. And VAR have awarded the goal to us. We get the ball into the box well, but I think it's Tucci that has a shot. It cannons off the defender's heels, and Daniek is there to head the ball in. And that is a pretty good start. So much so that we are going to put out a little praise, because this is Hajduk Split we're playing here, and they've not even registered a shot. We've got 61% possession. We're playing champagne football. It's all back on. We're going to win the league, I think. Do not quote me on that. As we get to 35 minutes, and Shopov sends the ball into the box. They have a little header. It's miles over the bar. That's not going to dampen our spirits. And here we come for the second. It's Stanley Tucci. He strides forward. He tests Hein in goal. I think it clipped the outside of the post before it went behind. We're playing really well in this game. 10 shots, 4 on target. A healthy XG for 45 minutes of action. We could be on our way to 3 points. So the only player that didn't perform that well during that first half is Tiny Took, which is a worry, because I spent about £1.5 million bringing this player to the club, thinking that they were going to be the next big thing in Croatian football. I'm not even sure they're going to be the next small thing in Croatian football. I might have wasted 3/4 of the transfer budget that I was given on a player who performed well in Slovenian football and is not playing very well since I've brought them into Croatia. They're having overhead kicks at goal. We'll take those kind of low percentage efforts. We are getting ready to extend our league with this highlight here. Tucci holds up the ball. Here is the Tuk. That's pretty much as good as he's been so far. There's a finish at the end of it. There's a goal. He had to get tackled and win the ball back in order to have the shot. But maybe playing out there as the inside forward on the left is the role that he was born to play. It's a terrible little bit of attacking play. But the Chuk gets into the box. He slices it past Hein. And we are 2-0 up against Hajduk. And we're ready for some subs. I think we'll just drift down to balanced. We might even on about 88, 89 also start wasting some time against Hajduk. We're at that point now. We'll throw that on. And a 2-0 win against a team that is performing admirably in Europe. And we've even made it 3 as Avica Battarello, the right back that we bought on, who's a centre half really. Well, he's just followed us into a 3-0 lead. And I know, don't all race down to the comments and tell me what a piece of tactical genius you've just witnessed there. I've heard it, well, I was going to say 1,000 times before, maybe once before. And the person that told me it was drunk and wasn't even watching. But that's a really good game. We've got good performances across our defence and from our goalkeeper. All of the players that we bought off averaged above a 7. It's only some of the subs that came on that didn't get up to that level. And that might just cement our place in those European qualification spots. Well, that certainly looks a bit better. We are now 6 points clear of Slaven Belupo in that 9th place relegation playout position. We're still a long way behind Hajduk, both in terms of points and goal difference as well. But we just edged back ahead of Istra, who have been flying up the table themselves. And if we could now go away and pick up another few wins by the time we come back, probably for the final 2 games of the season, you never know, we could be in contention for one of those European qualification places in the quest.